Well, you know, the U.S. military, we're told, struggling to connect with potential recruits. And it says the branches are, well, barely hitting the minimum recruiting numbers they need, if they meet them at all. Apparently not helping the matters, the declining trust in our armed forces. Last year, the Reagan Foundation surveyed this, and they found less than half of Americans have a great deal of confidence in the military. That's down 70% from back in 2018. Meantime, fewer young people are interested in joining up, they say. Only 13% of Americans ages 18 to 29 say they are highly willing to enlist in the military. So, what does this mean for defending our nation? Retired Navy SEAL and author Mike Sarraille joins us on this troubling situation. Mike, how concerned should we be about these numbers?
Eric, good to be back. I think people are actually wrong here. Their confidence in the military should not be affected. What I think is affecting it is the weak leadership in the national capital region and the lack of trust, which has overall created a confidence of a crisis. And then lastly, let me say, there is cultural rot impacting our younger generation. Proof of that is 70% of young Americans are unfit to serve due to health reasons.
Let's drill down on that. You see the young people, you see the kids on TikTok, they're sitting there on their thing and the iPad. That's all they do, sitting around. When you talk about being unfit, do they have the physical fitness, the mental ability? Do they have the spiritual sense, many of them? Or do you think they'd rather, not be in the military and sit on the couch?
So, I think this should send shockwaves through America that we've lowered our standards to such depths. We're in a culture where everyone gets a trophy. Obesity is the new beautiful. And if you fail or don't even try, don't worry, it's somebody else's fault. Hey, Eric, when you look at leadership, strong leadership, leadership that people respect and trust, they're willing to contribute and sacrifice for the collective good. Now, the juxtaposition to that is weak leadership, the crisis of confidence. People pull inward to protect themselves and their immediate families, and they're not willing to sacrifice for the cause they deem unworthy. But I'm not going to put this on the younger generation. If we can actually get them into the military, we can actually get them to a physical standard that they need to be. This generation is the next best generation. We just have to hold them to the standards of old.
Yeah, people who have a few extra pounds are beautiful, but when you're dealing with the military and the stress and the strains and what they have to go through, is this being taught in schools? Are there programs that are working like we used to have here in New York City? There's something called the Knickerbocker Grays. You have junior corps that help funnel people into the military.
Yeah, you know what, Eric? I think the short answer to that is no. We're not training our younger generations to be the leaders we need in the future. But I think a good sort of contrast here is there was a commercial by the Russians where they showed young men resolute, ready to do violence on behalf of their nation. And then the contrast to that is the U.S. Army that showed a video of a young soldier and her two mothers. We're sending some very dangerous narratives. We have to have pride in our nation. The military was the greatest decision, and a lot of my friends would agree, that we ever made. They paid for my bachelor's degree. I got my MBA. More importantly, they turned a young boy into a man and laid the foundation for my success because they taught me everything I needed to know about leadership. And so I would actually encourage our young men and women to join. The military has just phenomenal leadership, and they forge our future leaders, especially the ones that we see in government sometimes.
I mean, absolutely does. There is something called the Junior Reserve Officer Corps. About 500,000 secondary school students are in the Junior Reserve Officer Corps. It teaches them citizenship and leadership, but they're disproportionately in the South. I mean, you have all swaths of this country where the military, it isn't even considered by some of these young people.
No. And again, that's the narrative that paints the military in a different light. The military I knew led through love. And the highest forms of compassion are accountability and standards. But you look at where I grew up, the Bay Area, they outlawed JROTC within the high schools within the immediate San Francisco city. So again, we've got to be very wary about the message we're sending to our youth as well as our enemies abroad.
And before I let you go, you are a retired Navy SEAL. Let's give a shout out to the SEALs. We just saw the Sudan evacuation. 3-hour helicopter flights going in there into an active war zone. What is that like? We can't thank them enough for their heroism and how they so professionally can get that operation done, Mike.
So I think, again, that is a testament that weak leadership may affect the Pentagon, but it does not affect our troops on the front line, they still have the ability to execute. And every young man and every young woman should be like those soldiers forward defending our freedoms.
They are heroes and role models, and we thank them and all those who serve. Mike Sorelli, thank you for joining us. And, of course, thank you for your service to our nation.
Thanks, Eric.